developed. Like even the charging infrastructure tech is also getting developed, right? A lot of companies like Exponent, like Ather Energies, we have our own grid business which is happening. So all of us are working on like much faster charging tech.
Build it from scratch. And it was a quite a exercise because that interaction is so smooth right now where you have physics involved in, right? We had to actually write that physics so that when you leave it, it goes back smoothly.
To get into settings, right? Like you need to swipe down to get into settings. We wanted to mimic what your mobile phone does, so it's very easy for you to understand, right? Apparently, most of those gestures are already like patented by top companies, Apple and other folks have already patented.
Would you give young Indian designers working at the intersection of hardware, software, and
The CCD, and then like probably on the streets. And after that, we started calling people home. Like, so,
लिफ्ट में ही पकड़ लिया किसी अंकल को या चल जाएगा टाइप्स
No. Chal jayega was the word at Ather, and it's still not. So if you're making it, you're making it right. Accessibility, definitely yes, but up to a certain level. Not in the traditional sense of accessibility.
Hello and welcome to the GAN project. Today I'm speaking with Harish, Kumar and Anurag Bartarey, two of the brilliant minds behind Ather's design journey. This episode was recorded just before Ather went IPO. I wish we had also captured their recent pothole feature, but you'll find all the links in the show notes. This isn't a sponsored episode. I simply had a lot of fun talking to them. Originally, we set out to document the entire scooter, but the dashboard and its countless nuances turned out to be so rich that we ended up focusing just on that. If you would like me to bring them back to go deeper into the other parts of electric vehicle, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to tag Ather. Share this with your friends and family and subscribe to the GAN project on our YouTube channel for latest updates. Let's begin. Welcome Anurag and Harish to the GAN project, and thanks for giving your time. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you, Harkit.
Awesome. So, first of all, congratulations on Ather going IPO. And today's conversation is more about the design aspects of it, which I'm super curious to know. But before we start, I got some email and messages from the listeners and the followers of the GAN project, and they had some questions. So let's start with that, mostly of a warm up and rapid fire round. So first question is Sham from Mumbai. He's asking, and question to both of you: which Ather scooter do you own, and how often do you commute?
Go for it, Harish.
Yeah, so okay, this is a controversial question for me because I go by metro. I commute by metro at this point of time. So I'm lucky in a way, like I can actually try out all the vehicles at theater. I get to bring the vehicle, like even spend time with my family with the vehicle itself. So yeah, so that way I'm lucky. I get to ride all the vehicles. Oh, right.
So I'm a big proponent of public transport. I've used BMTC for almost 12 years. I've been here 10 years. And that's one of the reasons I didn't buy a two-wheeler because I mostly travel by bus and cab. And often if I'm going out, then it's a car. Also, it's like as Harish said, I got to try so many vehicles, and also we had scooters all the time. So it didn't feel like that we did not own one of our own.
Great. Next is Rishikesh from Pune. He's asking, will charging time reach the level of petrol based on the current research in battery technology? Will it ever match up to that?
Yeah, I think regarding charging times, right? Like, so as you know, the whole lithium ion technology and the battery technology itself is like it's booming quite a bit, right? So as the product is getting developed, like even the charging infrastructure tech is also getting developed, right? A lot of companies like Exponent, like Ather Energies, we have our own grid business which is happening. So all of us are working on like much faster charging technologies, right? Like, so more than the actual technology, we are also trying to change the habit of how you use a vehicle, right? If you're just measuring from a ICE vehicle, like ICE means like the internal combustion engine vehicles, uh, the way you use your electric vehicles is completely different, right? You come back, plug it in, like how you plug in a mobile phone. Like, so you got used to it every day. Earlier, we used to have like mobile phones which use like battery used to be there for weeks together, right? Now just so we are trying to get that habit right over there. So that's how like owns an Ather, we already know how it works, and then like just go plug it in back when they go back home.
Yeah, yeah. No, in fact, the follow-up one is also from Prachi, again from Pune, that batteries are built in India or imported, and obviously, if they're made in India, how much percentage of is built in India?
Anurag, I'll go for this. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So the cells are exported currently. We are not really investing into building the cells. So battery is it's a combination of multiple cells, right? So we build our own battery, but the cells are imported. Again, we have multiple sources. We are not looking at just China, but we have like Taiwan and other places also we import from, since we have multiple vendor sources. Uh, so the main intellectual property what we have is our own battery management system. Actually, that's what which defines a battery. A good battery versus a bad battery, also, right? So I think we are quite proud about like how we built our own battery management system. So battery is ours, is completely ours. Only the cells we import from outside.
Got it. And this is predominantly for all EVs in India, or are there companies who are like
Currently, everybody is importing. There are few automakers who are planning to do cell manufacturing in India.
Hmm.
But yeah, right now it's everything is just imported.
One detail I want to add here is batteries are not just about cells. I mean, primarily about how you arrange them. So the design of battery pack is one of the most crucial part of overall EV engineering, and I think that's the heart of how you design a vehicle from ground up. And the way you arrange those cells, it helps you optimize the heat. It helps you optimize the way they charge. So it's a very, very important part of the whole engineering of an EV, how you arrange these cells in a battery pack.
Okay. Vishal from Mumbai, one of the major concerns around EV adoption is high cost of battery and replacement after 6 to 8 years. I guess that's his experience. So, how do you see design, technology, or business models addressing these challenges? Right, like can these be more affordable in long run?
I think buy good vehicles would be my answer. Buy the best vehicles because batteries do not deteriorate as fast as they are expected or they're assumed to be. Harish, can you talk about our recent stat on the
So I guess that's what he was talking about, right? Like, so batteries do not deteriorate as people are expecting, right? Like, so all these are coming from the whole lead acid batteries, the old like electric vehicles used to have. Now, since we moved to the lithium ion and how the battery management system is actually taking care of all the cells, so we have engineered in a way like the deterioration is almost like negligible compared to even your mobile phone, right? Uh, so if you had seen, Ather has released this 870 plan, right? It was a massive marketing campaign we actually did. Like, so it's basically if your battery deteriorates below 70% after 8 years, Ather will just like replace it for free. Full of confidence we have on our battery pack, right? So, and all of these came from the data what we actually collect, and uh, it was surprising to us also. Even the way it was deteriorating was like way less than what we actually initially computed also, right? So that's the level our battery packs are designed. So that literally you don't need to worry about anything. I don't think anybody is going to own a vehicle more than 8 years. Even if they own, like, you still have a healthy battery pack, and even if it deteriorates, Ather will just replace it for free.
Got it. Okay. And the last one is from Manish. He's from Ambernath. Electric scooters often look quite different from traditional gasoline scooters. Why do you think there's a strong design language or conscious effort to make it visually different?
I think that's a I'm glad that this question came up, because this was actually a massive debate like even 10 years ago, right? How wildly different electric vehicles should be from the existing scooters what we have. I'm surprised they also saw it as a different type of vehicle, right? Because our whole efforts were into making it as similar to an existing scooter as possible, right? So that's the initial approach they actually took, so that like you don't really alienate, because like the whole tech is new, the behavior of charging is new. If the form is also completely different, it's going to just repel people away, right? So there's this popular jargon, right? Maya, like most advanced yet acceptable, right?
Hmm.
So we try to stay in that category, right? Like we don't want to start getting too alien so that we alienate people. At the same time, have this pride of owning a complete new tech. So that's where it comes. But if you look at just the whole architecture as such, right? Like so, electric vehicles are fundamentally has a completely different architecture internally. We don't have an engine, we don't have a petrol tank which needs to sit in, right? So the whole architecture itself will actually lend us creating a complete new form, but we still try to retain to make it look like a existing scooter as much as possible, right? We hopefully want to create a lot more new forms out of it. Like hopefully the market will also accept that soon.
Cool. I think these were a few questions. I'll open up question for both of you again. Maybe Anurag, you can go first. So, when you joined Ather, what was the mindset and the ambition of you and the company, and especially for you, like what attracted you to work of this like EV world?
What was I here? 2017 June. I came to Ather's office for my interview, and I saw a prototype. That time it was just a prototype, and of course, like they were trying to build, and it looked amazing. And I just stared at it for a few minutes, and I was like, "What is this thing that we are making?" And that moment, I knew this is gonna be something big, and I had no idea how big it's gonna get over the years. And I'm like, "This is where I work." And at that point of time, I think after when I joined, I learned there's so much happening in this, and there's a lot of energy that you could feel in the building itself, where we had a lot of people working on just one vehicle. Over the years, I think the ambition hasn't changed. It has still the same, where we want to build the best vehicles, the cleanest, and the performance-oriented vehicles. And I think over the years, that promise has consistently been delivered by Ather. Yeah.
Okay. And Harish, it's been more than 10 years. So, what made you
I,
kind of.
I wish I saw the energy what Anurag saw, because when I actually joined Ather, there were literally 2, 3 folks just lying around in the office. So that was a time when Ather was shifting from Chennai's IIT Madras Research Park to Bangalore office, right? Like so, we were just literally setting up the office. That used to be Amachitra Kada's old building. We literally, I think, I was feeling so bad that we literally painted away all the illustrations beautifully they made. We took up the space and created a corporate office out of it. But yeah, that's but the, I I literally bought into the story what really our CEO literally sold to me, right? Like so that time there was no product, there was literally no prototype. Also, it was just a sketch. What Shantanu, who was a designer who joined before me, who made a sketch. So that sketch literally pulled me into the company itself. Like so, once I spoke to the CEO, was then the whole like the light just lit up right for me. It the kind of hope they had, like the kind of perseverance they had to build this, to make this happen, that just like blew it away for me. Like, yeah, that was my
Yeah, great. So, Anurag, coming from a digital and such diverse background, how did you shift your mindset to design these vehicles, right? And also if other domains you have been in music, photography, product design, definitely. So, anything that helped you orient quickly?
Actually, this is a very interesting question, because after 1 week when I came to Ather, one thing I realized, I need to throw away everything that I know out of the window again and start afresh, because this is very different from what I was doing earlier, and it requires you to unlearn a lot of habits that you had and learn from the people who are building it and see what new skills or new ideas are required to make this, because it's not easy to shift directly from digital to something that's physical, tangible, and also has a digital component. So to me, it was learning from day one. And one of the things that I did at that point of time was to talk to anyone I could see, because there were. This is the first time I was working with people who were electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, power electronics. So many teams were there, and I was like, "Wow, this is a whole different world." And at that point of time, if I had kept closed mind and just focused on what I was doing, I would not have enjoyed any of that, and I would not have learned how to even work in a hardware startup. So what helped me primarily was just the energy to learn new things, and not be too much opinionated about what I knew, and keep forcing that. Secondly, eventually, as we worked on the vehicle, my basic music skills came into play. I was very happy, very proud of that. I also, since a lot of things were happening, because there's a charger, there's vehicle, and we're building a lot of prototypes, concepts. So I kept documenting these things as they were happening because I always had a camera with me. So that's how it, like all of these things came together. And I think over the years, I've learned quite a lot of new skills just by being there for 6+ years. And I think, yeah, I mean, Ather has been my industrial design college, I would say. I also learned a lot of sketching, automotive sketching from Harish. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I remember I've interviewed Chetan Shirjale, who works. I think he still works at Harley Davidson, but that was my first interview, and yeah, he spoke about a lot about sketching and the early days and so on and so forth. Cool. So, Harish, what tech foundations were critical to build early on for a smart scooter ecosystem?
Yeah, I think like even I was figuring out when I just joined, right? Like even honestly, as Anurag said, even it was a complete new college for me. Like I have zero clue about what was happening there, right? Because the whole vehicle was being built grounds up. Like so, it was almost like a first principle approach, right? These guys were literally reinventing the whole wheel again and again. Like so, which is good and bad in a way because now we have to think about the timeline also in a way. But since this is going to be the first vehicle which you're going to have, at least actually in the whole world, like the first two-wheeler to have a touchscreen dashboard, right, and the connected system, right. So this is a complete new challenge for us because it's not just a challenge from the engineering perspective and design perspective, but also from the supply chain perspective, right. Nobody had any clue about like any display which can work in the sunlight or how it will work in outdoor environments, right? All this while we had a infotainment unit which is inside the car, which is a slightly more less lit compared to this one, and also no dust, no water entry, nothing, right? So it was a complete different challenge for us. And suppliers used to literally laugh at us when we used to pitch this idea. They're like, nobody does this. Why do you guys want to go and do this, right? So we actually uncovered like the tech aspects of it on the go, right? So for example, like we literally had a dream, we had a sketch, we had an idea about how the whole system needs to work. So we did all journey mapping and everything to make that happen. But that stood as a big brief for us, right? Like everybody, all the engineers from electricals to mechanical to the supply chain team, to everyone literally took that as a idea concept and started working towards it, right? So from skill set perspective, that's how everybody started learning. For example, like if I had to learn packaging, right? If I had to package the whole dashboard with electronics and stuff, that's a complete new team we had to form by ourselves, right? Uh, so all of the literally we uncovered little by little, and then like started forming teams who can actually talk about those, right? So yeah, that was the biggest challenge for us, like starting off understanding where to go towards and figuring out the north pole, and then everybody were like figuring out what needs to be done to get there, right? So if I answer the question what you really asked, like so even we didn't know when we started off like skill sets. It's going to be based on the particular vehicle you're building.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember going through so many different displays and evaluating their colors, their brightness, just to find the one which we can put on our vehicle and which can, endure all the outdoor impact on it. So it was a good exercise. I do remember that now.
If you actually zoom out and see, we actually literally building a tablet, right? Literally a phone slash tablet, right? By ourselves. So it's basically a phone company, a software company, a cloud connectivity company, sitting on top of a EV company, which is we are also building in scratch, right? So everything we're building out of like what, like some 25 folks in initially, right? So and everything had a 6 months timeline for some reason.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how it was being built. Like so, literally, you from a designer's perspective, you just need to be receptive and try to understand what kind of tech it needs to reach your goal, right? The whole point is like you learn on the go. That's how it actually works for
Correct,
us.
correct. Yeah. No, in fact, this episode is going to be learning on the go, because I was talking to Anurag before the recording that I don't know how to structure this episode also, because there's so many details and so many nuances at every level that you can't, like, it can be like a 10-hour episode also, which I would love to do sometime. But yeah. So Anurag, for you, like, how did you imagine like the brand new dashboard, or like, obviously not you, but the team as such, like from a UI standpoint? Or you spoke about, like, before the recording, you spoke about like situational relevance. So if you can elaborate like a broad outline of how the dashboard came to be.
So I think the point when I joined, Harish had already prepared a decent level of sketches. So the idea was that this is a very fluid, uh, futuristic, clean dashboard that is a heart of your interaction with the vehicle. So it's not just something that you put additionally on the vehicle, but it's a integral part of the vehicle through which a user can understand what is happening on the vehicle, and also vehicle can respond to it. One of the key idea that initially we had was this is a state-driven approach instead of task, or like how generally we build a digital product. Right, you have a certain task that you finish. Instead of that, in a vehicle, you have states. Like your riding is one state, vehicle's idle is one state, charging is another state. If you're navigating while riding is a state, error is also a state. Right, so you have to understand all of these different states which vehicle can be in, right, and what vehicle needs to communicate to a user and what user needs to do. So this was one of the principle. And then as we started building up, we also made it contextual, so that we cut down all the irrelevant information and in a particular context, in a situation, and you focus only on the things that you need. Since it's a touch screen, so you could do a lot more which you can't do in a traditional dashboard. So yeah, I mean that's how we started building it, and slowly as we built, we learned what are things that we need, what are things that we don't need, and I think we both worked on. Right, I worked on it till 450x, and we had like hundreds of iterations of that. Harish also worked on a lot of the form exercise for the UI, because this is not a generic UI where you can borrow a design system from somewhere or have like generic buttons on it. You have to create your own design style, design theme for the whole UI, so that it blends with the vehicle, so that it doesn't look like it's taken from somewhere else, right? Many other manufacturers do that, right? They have a very random UI playing on the dashboard. We wanted ours to be just right, where it just feels like it's part of the vehicle. So Harish, on top of that, yeah.
Yeah. I think like one direction what we took was like initially we used to have this keyword called
One,
unauto, right? So we don't want to build
yeah,
something which is the traditional automotive, because the tech itself is different. But at the same time, we don't want, in the name of unauto, the thing is unauto is like anything which is not automotive is unauto. So basically the spectrum is still massive for us. Like, so we still didn't do what we really need to build, right? So that just made us just keep on exploring continuously. But the thing is, what we realized was we didn't really want to take away the emotion what the physical form is already trying to give you, right? So when you buy a vehicle, when you own a vehicle, it almost becomes like a family for you, right? You start like the little people start giving names, and people start like really looking back after you turn off the vehicle, right? So all of those emotions we really don't want to take away from this, like not create a mobile app on a dashboard, right? That's what we're really clear about. But what we realized was this is a first time opportunity for us to think, okay, what a two-wheeler interface needs to be like, right? So they're like, we want to keep safety in mind. We wanted to keep glanceability in mind. At the same time, it needs to be readable in sunlight. It needs to be able to scale up with all the new features which we keep giving over time, right? All of these were the main considerations before we started off building this whole UI. Right, as you said, like we had like different states rather than like different tasks, right? So that actually helped us narrowing down quite a bit. Like on, okay, this is a riding state, this is a navigating state, this is a charging state, all of this, right? Uh, and how do you navigate between them? So that actually it's brought in a lot new interfaces. Even the kind of interactions what you do, it's not the typical interactions what you will probably experience on your website or your mobile app. So we had to reinvent a lot of new interactions which will help you just like use your whole arm instead of having just a small touch what you can do, because the way you hold your phone versus like where you actually sit on type on the vehicle, right, it's completely different, right? So all interactions we had to rethink quite a bit. Like, so yeah, I mean, we were so glad we got the opportunity so that we can actually come up with.
Here is there's a big difference that I've noticed when I started working on this was design based on keywords. So in our digital products, generally we have a basic mood boards. On top of that, people build design systems and people build certain ways in which their whole branding works, right? So there's something a lot more refined in vehicle design where you have certain key that dictates the whole vehicle. Like for example, futuristic, clean, on auto was one of our keyword. So we actually spent like couple of days just to figure out what these word means to all of us, and all of us as in a design, product design, marketing, and business all together in one house. We were there for 2 days just to understand, so that we are aligned on these keywords. And each of us, whatever we're working on, these keywords were our guiding principles and they were our guardrails as well. Uh, More people start doing this process because whenever I talk to somebody about keywords, they just go to the mood boards and then forget about the mood boards and just go back to the generic UIs. And in my head, I keep thinking, what is your guardrails? How are you even deciding, how this UI needs to look like or how your general visual direction needs to be? So this was an amazing learning for me, and I think over the years I have done whatever I've done, even on my personal work. I've never forgotten this idea of keywords. Even the speaker pedestal that I built a while back, I had keywords for it, how it should need to look like, how it needs to, what are the words that will dictate its design. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a little different view of this because, yeah, I mean, when you're doing a commercial project, these keywords really help. But when you are kind of exploring something, the keyword can often also restrict you to explore beyond certain paradigms which you are engaging with, right? Like, but yeah, in commercial context, it definitely makes sense. So I have a follow up on this, that I understand the hit areas and the state management and everything is crucial, but I've heard a lot of people complaining about the non-tactile feel of dashboards also, right? I mean, Elon Musk's classic example, the car feels as if you were sitting in a computer without any tactile. So were there conversations or discussions or debates around, can there be some groove or whatever, like some feeling, tactile feeling to the dashboard also?
Actually, we also hate complete digital unit rather than having a full tactile system control, right? So what we were very clear about is like wherever it needs a tactile input, we will give a tactile input, right? Like for example, we have a bunch of switchgear which we designs ourselves. Uh, for any right critical function, it needs to happen there, right? We have a switchgear for park for your reverse function. We have a switchgear for your like start stop, your kill switch. Uh, all the essential is just covered with it. Like you don't even need to interact with your dashboard to do any of those, right? So, but when it comes to the digital space, why digital space will work better is like you can start like accommodating a lot more features, right? Uh, like without actually involving a lot of hardware change over time. So essentially, you buy a vehicle today. Every year, you get to experience a complete new vehicle, right? So that's the advantage you get from having a digital system that way. Like so, the number of features we just like literally started exploding exponentially over time for us right now. Every time you have an OTA update, people are excited. Okay, what new feature gets unlocked for me? Not just your digital feature, but also features like we have a really cool feature called Magic Twist, right? Which you actually use your throttle, right? If you twist the throttle opposite way, the vehicle starts braking itself, right? It just sits like the air, right? Like so, suddenly everybody has this feature of the hardware itself changed over time, right? So whichever needs to hardware intervention, we do give the tactile uh, uh, feedback, and uh, whichever is a proper digital interface. For example, you're typing to search for a navigating to a different place, or like you want to just do a setting change. All of those are still, it makes sense to have it inside the digital space, which you really don't need on everyday basis.
In fact, I think we should keep this episode just on the dashboard, because I have not even started with headlights and like thousand other things, but just doubling down on the dashboard itself. Harish, this is for you. What made you kind of build it your own navigation system, and what base technology was there?
Right. The whole we even have the debate, right? Why do you really need a navigation for a commute vehicle like this? Like literally, you're going from home to work. You literally know the location, right? You literally know the routes, right? Why do you really need a navigation system? Like if you're, let's say, you're going on a tour vehicle, right? Adventure tourer or something where, like, yes, navigation really makes sense. But what we really went to build is basically, it's not navigation but maps as a platform, right? So we earlier we had this a brief of sort to create the best urban commute experience, because that was purely for Bangalore market, and then we were planning to expand only to urban cities initially. What will be the best urban commuting experience? Of course, we have built a super fun scooter. It's basically a motorcycle in form of a scooter. Like, so if you look at all the mechanical decisions these guys have took, like we have literally replicated a motorcycle in the form of scooter, right? Like, so you have the best agility, you have the best acceleration, all of those are there. But beyond the ride fun, right? What it really needs for you to go from home to work, right? You're literally missing out on a lot of things in between, right? Like, so it's not just ride experience, but you still need to get connected. You still need to know what is really happening around you, right? Can the vehicle actually help you have a peace of mind? Can the vehicle actually take you to the best and the shortest route and the fastest route possible, right? Can it take you through the fun routes as much as possible, right? So without having location intelligence, is very hard for me to give those features, right? So today we are giving only the navigation through maps, but we also have a lot of other features which we have planned for, which is going to make your commute experience fun, right? So that's how it started off. So to make that happen, of course, we need all of those essential connectivity hardware and all, right? You need your GPS, you need a magnetometer, you need your connectivity itself. Like that's when we started having the whole internet connectivity, where like we had to literally put a SIM inside your dashboard, right? So to know where you are exactly, right? And it was such a struggle, because like we built our whole navigation system ourselves, right? Google doesn't give us the application, because we are not really having a Android based system, like which the Google is actually certifying. So we have a open source Android system, where you need to build the whole map by yourself. It's basically a browser map which we literally Frankensteined it and like built a navigation system out of this, right? Uh, so we had to, and that was literally built by like three engineers at Ather. Like with what Google is doing as the massive thing that we had to build it everything by ourselves. Yes, we do source some APIs which we really need from Google. For example, your traffic information, what you have, and your searching location. All of those are Google data, which is a real treasure. What Indians also seek for, right? If you have gone for a much cheaper maps, right, which will be actually advantage from the cost perspective. Also. We don't really need to shell out a lot of money from Ather side. But Google Maps, at least we believe that Google Maps is going to be the most reliable map at least 10 years ago. And that's what the customers really deserve, right? So all of these we had to build by ourselves to make this happen. Today, you just see a navigation, but like it's going to just, the features are going to expand from there. Like, so location intelligence is what, it's not navigation.
Yeah, I'm blown away with the layers of engineering that is involved here.
Initial days, it was such a nightmare because people had perception of Google Maps, which is so fluid, fast, and we're struggling to get to even like 50% of that, given the capability we had, and we're experimenting with how to make it. But kudos to the engineers, like just 10 people, 10, 12 people build such an amazing system after like so much of refinement. And one more thing to the reason why we built this on our own. um, charging is one of the major concern that people have, right? And to have enough intelligence of our own so that we understand the right part and suggest how you should be charging, so that you're not constantly thinking about charging. Like vehicle itself knows that, like these are the places where you can go and charge, where you need to charge, or do you even not need to charge also, right? So one of the feature that we build later on called Trip Planner, which plan your day. Only reason it is effective is because it has the context of where you are and the vehicle knows exact details. So it can tell you whether you need to charge on the way, before you ride or after you ride, or you don't even need to charge, right? So that's why having your own technology helps a lot in exploring what more you can do with that.
I don't know where to like stop and what all areas to cover, but any other aspects of purely the dashboard and around everything around the handle and the headlight that was kind of challenging the
Uh,
physical aspects of it, right? Like beyond, as Harish mentioned about having certain tactile features. So around dashboard, the physical aspects of it.
you mean the around dashboard or overall
Yeah,
vehicle?
no, overall around the dashboard, around the handle area, any challenges you faced while integrating this into the hardware
Mhm.
part of it, right?
Of course, it's a vehicle. It needs to have audio feedback as well, right? And uh, we have a speaker that is connected to the dashboard, and it's placed on the headstock, in this front part of the vehicle. Um, when we, I mean, it was actually quite a challenge to get the right kind of sound from that speaker. So after the first version was built, I realized this is not sufficient because the audio quality that we need for the experience that we're thinking of is not up to the mark. So it the whole exercise of how we can improve it with what we have right now started. So from the audio side, I started pushing in the way like what the frequencies I can use to create my sounds. From engineering side, we started working on what kind of casing would enhance the sound, what kind of casing would not really work in that, and also it needs to have a waterproofing as well, right? So without waterproofing, it could be dangerous, and if you add waterproofing, the sound reduces. So we had like a double challenge over there, and when a lot of things are already figured out, you are almost going to production. You can't just change a speaker; like it's not an update. You have to go through the whole cycle of sourcing and like re-engineering it to fit it over there. So of course, like the later versions have a better audio, better speaker, better amplifier. But the first one was amazing because it was limiting, but we somehow with putting all this together from software to engineering to audio, what we were making, and we had the first version ready, which was good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We'll come back after a short break on sonic identity. So let's take a small break here. I have two small updates. First, introducing TGP Samachar. It's a free newsletter which you can get when you subscribe on thegyanproject.com. Those who cannot commit to long audio or video episodes, they can get 4 key takeaways from each episode right in your inbox. It's a light read in 4 Q&A format. So please do subscribe to Samachar. And the second update, I've been bringing to you these deep dive conversations for over 300 plus episodes, all ad free. The best way you can give back in 3 simple ways. Subscribe to the GyanProject.com on our YouTube channel and the website so you don't miss the next one. Share this episode with one friend. It makes a bigger difference than you think. And lastly, comment what do you think on YouTube. That's how YouTube gets a signal that people are engaged and considers recommending to non-followers. The inevitable game of algorithms. Those who have already subscribed, thanks a ton. And now, back to the episode. Okay, welcome back. I'm talking to Anurag and Harish from Ather. So we were talking about the speaker part. So if you can also elaborate on the sonic identity.
This is my favorite project at Ather over the 6 years. Why? Because music is something that I have just picked up without learning formally anywhere. Uh, in When I was teenager, I had access to some of the MIDI tools, and I was making music in that. Somehow, I learned how to play keyboards, and over the years, I figured out how to play guitars. And somehow, in 2008, I got this a record studio, and I started random music in that. I had no idea one day this is gonna be useful in a major startup that's gonna change the whole world. So around, I think I remember that was in February 2018, few months before we were ready to launch our vehicle. We realized that, oh, we need sounds. Like, okay, who can? So we approached few companies and we realized who do sonic branding. We realized it would be too early to get a third party vendor on board because we're still figuring out what kind of identity we want for the vehicle. Like I jumped in, I was like, okay, let's give a shot. At that point of time, we were just 13 people in a design team, 13, 14 people. So, like you could do whatever you want to do. You don't have to like ask for it. If you are good at that, if you can just do it, figure out, just go for it. So I picked up. Uh, Again, we went back to our keywords. Now this is the first time I'm using these visual keywords into sound, into and I created different mood boards of how different keywords can be interpreted into audio form. Like I come to office with my set of speakers and my keyboard and my Fruity Loops, and every day we are making different kind of sound. After a while, we figured out what works, and I created my own synth for that. And using those, we started making different kinds of audio notes. So you have different functions, different states, and alerts in a vehicle, right? So, for example, you have turn indicators. You have a different sound for that. You have park assist. So, park assist is basically when your vehicle goes back, reverse mode, and you have error states. Then you have navigation. You have button feedback. Tons of events like that. So, from a profile that we selected from the audio that we felt fits the vehicle that we're imagining, I started creating multiple variations of that so that they can be fit into different events like this. So for a long time we had a startup sound on the vehicle. I don't know if it's still there. I hope it's still there. And because of that, I created a lot more sounds that can be used for different vehicles that we make over the years. So I think now there are a lot of sounds that I created are still on the vehicle, and I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
Was there any accessibility part involved in this while making the sound? Because I remember when I was in Jupiter, I thought like after the transaction is done, can there be like a nice sound which gives this unique identity to Jupiter? And the first thing, I am little hard of hearing, so the first thing which I did was it has to be on a higher pitch so that like being a startup, were those under consideration or like
Yeah,
MVP mein chal jayega types?
no, 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 no. Chal jayega was the word at Ather, and it's still not. So if you're making it right. Accessibility, definitely yes, but up to a certain level. Not in the traditional sense of accessibility, but the critical sounds, they should be heard when even when you have a helmet on. So when you are wearing helmet, your the reception reduces, right? So, for example, when you're using park assist or when you're using turn indicators, one more idea over here is that most of these sounds are for yourself as a rider, not for the others, right? So we had to keep the uh, level of the decibel for different frequencies at a level where it's audible only to you and while wearing a helmet. The contrast to this would be a horn. Horn is 90 to 95 dBs, I think, and horns are really loud because that's for others, not for you. And in fact, I even worked with hardware teams on the selection of speakers. That was a fun exercise. I benchmarked at least like 25 vehicles and figured out there because we wanted a right kind of horn so that it fits into our sonic branding. So yeah, definitely accessibility is a part of overall design that we're making. So in fact, the readability of the display, when you are in a bright sunny day, the letters and all the details of the over there should be visible, right? So that also is a part of how accessible things are. And same way, the other way also, where when you are riding at night, it should not be like completely like a sun in front of you. It should be lower on the brightness as well. Yeah.
I'll take one more question on the same front and then we'll move to Harish on the other parts. But could you also talk a little bit about the gesture based interaction for the drivers? in different situations? Like any more nuances that you can share?
I think Harish can explain that much better. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Harish.
Yeah, I think that I was speaking about, like having we had to reinvent our whole interaction system for a two-wheeler, right? This was one of those places where like we literally had to figure out the ergonomics of how to use the whole dashboard, right? So earlier we had a resource constrained system where like we were really not able to have any kind of gestures, even the swipe gestures or like even any of those, right? So it was quite a task for us to get there, to even unlock the gestures for us. But again, the engineers pulled off, I don't know, like a rabbit out of a hat, like to make that happen again, right? So that one actually gave us a lot of control over how we naturally can use your whole arm to interact with your dashboard rather than being very precise about a bunch of things, right? Uh, like want to go to, we have multiple states as we spoke about. We have a right state and we have a navigation state, right? If you want to go between right state and navigation state, you take your hand from your handlebar, uh, move to the left, and do a just a seamless action, just like just swipe between left and right, and then go back to handlebar, right? You don't need to be very precise where exactly I need to go and touch, right? So a lot of things, a lot of features also we started using gestures to roughly estimate rather than being very precise, right? So being like our interface needed to be as forgivable as possible because you are in a high stress environment. You are on a road, people are honking, there are a lot of things happening, right? So you can't really be very precise, or like even in the sunlight readable conditions, you really can't be very precise about where am I clicking. So I, even if you make a mistake, you still do an action as you intended, right? So to initially we didn't have a switch gear to get into reverse, the park assist feature. We had a swipe action to get into a park assist, right? Again, this will help you confirm an action. At the same time, this is not very precise that you need to search for it and press tap exactly on a button, right? So that's where all the base system and all came in. So that helped us define our interaction like as a layered approach. Like, so we start with the base layers where we move between screens, and top of it also we have few features we use gestures to do those, right? So so that way, from mental model perspective, it's very easy for you to start off with a zoomed out perspective. You move between the states itself using gestures, at the same time use features also using some small gestures. So that's how we started off.
Now imagine the complexity involved in this, and thankfully we'll keep this episode only for the dashboard and more details around it.
After a point, like after 2 3 years down the line, once we launched the vehicle, the IP team, like our legal team, came to us saying that we have a gesture to get into settings, right? Like you need to swipe down to get into settings. We wanted to mimic what your mobile phone does, so it's very easy for you to understand, right? Apparently, most of those gestures are already like patented by top companies. Apple and other folks have already patented those, right? So we had to do a lot of workarounds to make that happen. Also, for example, like when you swipe down, you start from your 0th pixel, swipe from the edges, but we started from the first pixel to actually work around to make that happen. But somehow, I think I should be thankful to the legal team also to actually make those workarounds happen. Right, without their support, it's very hard. I mean, those are loopholes, workarounds to do it. But we somehow were very persistent. Like we could have just said that, hey, no, it's not possible. We'll go back to a tab system where like it's just your menu opens up. But we did do a workaround to make
Wow.
the intent
And
happen.
one more
Yeah.
interesting story about interaction is so our very first vehicle, the base tech for that was Linux, and you know how we take a lot of mobile interaction for granted. Like you can just press, grab, hold, and drag. You just assume that they're gonna be there, but you know Linux didn't have any of this. So we wanted Marcus's button where you hold and slide, and you have to literally build it from scratch. And it was a quite a exercise because that interaction is so smooth right now, where you have physics involved in, right? We had to actually write that physics so that when you leave it, it goes back smoothly, so it doesn't feel and when you bring it slightly and then it goes back to its place. So all of that was supposed like we create from scratch. There was no template for it.
Are these things you people have documented, spoken about it? Because this is so rich information to be shared with every
Like,
designer to get into this and like know the nuances of so many things, right?
I guess this is the first time we're documenting this.
I'm right,
Honestly.
right. Maybe someday, Harish, when we are old and we have time, we'll just take a break just to all of this. Please
Yeah.
remember.
No, remember me. Like, let's do this on an ongoing basis. In fact, today this episode is about dashboard. So next question on dashboard is, when you do these over the air updates, like how does it happen, right? Because you are not knowing the context. This person, obviously it won't happen runtime that he's driving or she's driving and the updates are not happening. But could you also explain how these updates happen on the UI front of it, as in the digital aspects of it? Yeah.
For this one. So, of course, we are not, there are fire some shots here. We're not Windows when you are trying to close your laptop and it starts updating. So, the whole idea of OKR updates is when you're not using the vehicle. So, we know when we are not using the vehicle, it's when you're charging, right? It's an obvious state. So, generally, you can actually schedule it, on override on when you want it to happen. But automatically, it happens when it's charging, right? And it's very seamless so that you don't feel any interruption when you're riding. One of the key challenge with any OTA update is your compatibility and anything that can break, because in a software, in a mobile app or a web app, you can just throw an error and ask for support. But vehicle is a functional thing you're riding, so there's a lot at stake where things cannot break. So it has to be precise, and it needs to trigger right um, set of features that you're updating, not the kill component helps you right, and it needs to be done very carefully. So yeah, OTA is an amazing thing. You get a lot of new features because of that, and it kind of feels like like how you have these different kind of like your Apple event or your Figma event where new are announced and you just wait next day to refresh your Figma. It's same like on but on the vehicle. And I don't know. I'm really when I first saw this something like this is possible, I was actually mind blown. Like, wow, a vehicle can update. That was amazing.
Yeah, Harish, you have any?
Yeah. So once the update happens, right? I think it's not just the software system which is updating. All the firmware, the hardware firmware is also updating, right? As I said, we have a battery management system. We have a motor controller, which is actually a separate controller sitting on top of the motor, right? So all of these subsystems also kind of update when you actually do a software update, right? Usually, when you give a like let's say when you do OTA on your update on your laptop or your phone, it restarts, right? But in vehicle, you literally need to physically turn on this one, right? Like so, it does a restart by itself, but you need to reset the certain critical right critical functions like a motor controller, all of these through a key function, right? So that way the journey is a little challenging for us. Like we are still trying to optimize it, like hopefully much sooner. That like the user intervention of like you doing update also kind of reduces. Like so the whole update happens in the night, but the morning you just need to turn off and turn on the key, right? Once for it to complete. Even that we are trying to do it again. It might sound like a very simple step where you can just like bypass in the engineering, but no, it's again like massive engineering challenge for them to do it, because again the whole key system and the motor controller are built up from this safety foundation what we have built, right? Anything happens, if you turn off the key, the vehicle should be able to kill itself, right? So the architecture itself is going to define a bunch of user flows what we create, right? Yeah, I think like it's again a long way to go for us, but this is something again we Frankenstein ourselves to make it happen.
It's I'm blown away. I remember one more episode which I did. I'll add in the show notes with Satyasilan, who works at Ashok Leyland and
Sure.
has been designing trucks for very long. And that's a different world altogether. That episode also feels very incomplete because this is a scooter, that's a truck, so there is like 100 more things around it, and madness legacy of supply and chain. So yeah, any. So I wanted to change tracks and go to the emotional aspects and the cultural aspects, and then we can conclude this. But anything else in and around, at least do the dashboard sincerely, which is anything around dashboard that I have missed asking, any memory, any story that stands out. Uh, if I want to ask if everything works with that one SIM card, because that's the only connecting medium for data, or are there any more components, some via phone app and the connection? Are there any those sort of connections?
Today we have the SIM card, which is actually technically doing all the data transfers to the vehicle. We do have Bluetooth connectivity, which you can directly connect to your smartphone and stuff, right? Today, but that's purely for the music and other music streaming and your call streaming purposes. We do all of the Bluetooth connectivity, but most of your data connectivity happens over the cloud itself, right? Uh, like what we also launched is another ecosystem product, which we call it Halo. It's basically a connected helmet, right? Smart helmet, because like it also helps reducing the road noise, at the same time take safety into consideration while you're actually using any of those features, right? Uh, so all of those, we use your Bluetooth and your cellular network to make sure both happen at the same time, right? Again, and we have a companion mobile app which actually it's not just complements the feature but actually completes the whole ecosystem for ourselves, right? For example, like a bunch of features, like finding your vehicle. We have most of your flows. For example, like we can actually upload documents on your scooter itself, like to, let's say, some we don't need to pick up your wallet and show all of this, like, so. And you're the first one to do all of those again, right? So all of those flows, we actually need the mobile app for it to have a much more seamless experience. You don't need to really go to a web portal to all of those. Like, so we have a really good mobile app which actually built by ourselves to make that happen. Again, we're looking at ecosystem as a whole, not just the vehicle. We do have a tire pressure monitoring system. Again, connects over the Bluetooth to the dashboard, right? So again, there also we are not just showing if the tire pressure is going low, but we also tell like how it affects your range. How can you like, let's say if it reduces, like how can you actually go and fill it up? All of those we also help you do all of this, right? Since because it's mobile app connected, let's say if there is a random puncture which happens when you parked it, you will get to know even when you're sitting at home that, hey, like your tire pressure is going low completely. Or if somebody pushes the vehicle, right? Like let's say if the vehicle is being towed, it falls down. All of those notifications you get. This is all purely because of the whole eSIM connectivity. What we really have now.
I don't know what to express after every new thing that I'm learning. Cool. We'll change gears a bit, and maybe Anurag, you can start off here because you did the Sonic branding. How did you address, say, cultural and emotional hurdles around this EV adoption itself, right? Like through design, especially, and tech. What were the few value adds as a designer that you brought in to make it more or increase adoption?
So before 2018, EVs had a very bad perception. I think two-wheeler EVs were, just low performing, slow, and something that you just don't look at it as a desirable thing, right? So the change of perception and how people think about EV, I think that is one of the big thing that it achieved over the years. From being, it's like what is that footwear, Crocs, where before no, it's a cool statement. But where like EV now desire for EVs. People now look at EVs as the cleanest and fast performance vehicles, right? So that perception is not just one tech or one idea, but it's like a collective effort of very strong opinion of different people who have come together to make this, right? So as a what you asked, one thing that we wanted to do from beginning itself was to differentiate it from way how we have designed it. That's why clean is one of our important keyword. Your vehicle is not clumsy, it's not boring, right? And UI reflects that. So uh, these considerations from built ground up from those keywords, and they did help a lot in building that perception of being a better vehicle. Something that you desire for, not something that you buy as a compromise or something that you can show off, right? So that all of that has come together to create that image, and the performance is always at the core. So no matter what Ather would make, I think performance will always be at the core, and they will always be the most reliable, faster, and very well balanced vehicles. So these are all the elements that really helped in changing that perception. And one of the biggest thing that it does was feedback from the first set of people, the earlier adopters who tried it out, who took that risk, and they were our ambassadors who promoted this a lot. And they were the ones who said, because you would hear from someone else, not from the people who are from the company, right? Not from the marketing. But we had a lot of these events where we invited those people and asked for feedback from them, like, how they feel about the vehicle. And I think that kind of really helped in building that strong perception key. This is something great that has been built in your own city, and that can really change how you think about two wheelers. Yeah. Harish, you definitely want to add to.
A bunch of things like you already covered, but the main thing uh, design, at least from design perspective, what we contributed was the whole when they were building the whole vehicle grounds up, right? We had a lot of opportunity for us to rethink everything, right? Like so, as we said, like why the vehicle was looking different, why does it look different from a normal scooter and all, right? We could have gone to an extreme case, right? But we chose to make it look very familiar as much as possible, at least from the functionality perspective, right? When you sit on a vehicle, you have handlebar, you have a brakes, you turn on the vehicle by press, brake, and start. That's the usual way anybody turns on a vehicle, right? We don't want to change any of those. Even after 10 years, the upcoming vehicles also, we are still taking the same decision. Hey, we are not going to change the existing behavior of what the user writes, right? It's very easy for us to come up with a complete new way of just turning on the vehicle. You don't need to technically turn on the vehicle. You just sit and start driving. It can just go, right? It's not an engine which you need to turn on. So I think that's where like we, as designers, we come in and like actually start like helping get the right experience right. Uh, and let's say a person walks into an experience at the Ather Experience Center, takes out the vehicle, right? It just feels familiar. Like you just turn on, just go, right? Nothing else is just an addition for you, right? And that's where we create the whole desire factor, right? Though dashboard, the emotional experience, what we really wanted to create. For example, we created a visualization. Again, we had to come up with a new algorithm to visualize power, right? So your electric vehicle doesn't have any sound or vibration, right? So we needed to bridge the gap. Like people love to have that sound and that whole haptic feedback, the vibration feedback, right? So we wanted to somehow bridge the gap by using the visual element itself, right? So we created an own algorithm to visualize it in a wing format. Like we literally, we call it Wings of Power. Like one of our old product managers actually named that as Wings of Power. So that actually tries to mimic what a sound would be doing on a normal vehicle, right? So that's where the user really start connecting. Okay, this is what my vehicle is thinking at that point of time, right? Like so, when I start like creating that communication between the vehicle and the rider, I think it's all set. The vehicle can think, can communicate to you, and you can also communicate back to the vehicle. Like so, I think that's probably the biggest contribution, probably what we had done, right? And making that as simple and fun as possible is the biggest, I think, biggest change what Ather has probably brought into the EV market. Honestly,
Got it, got it. And was there any research involved? Because this not reinventing the wheel and holding your key principle of familiarity, it's a very thin line to cross, right? So it's easy to cross. So did user research or any sort of extensive surveys helped, or it was more of the collective wisdom within the company?
yeah, we did do a bunch of user research. I think even from the inception, like when we really didn't have any prototype, also, right? We had to fake a lot of things to get the feedback right. We call it the Wizard of Oz testing, right? Where you actually do the control by yourself, but the user thinks it's actually the vehicle is responding to you. Right? So a bunch of things we had to do a quick Arduino prototype or like your basic prototypes to see if people can actually understand how things work, right? So it started off with a very simple testing setup like that. And once we started building our vehicles, we went to bigger clinics, right? Like where we go to all parts of India, right? Not just Bangalore. So what we also realized was Bangalore is such a forgiving market. Like whatever you do there, really okay. I'm happy with whatever you guys have built. And once we went to Ahmedabad and other places, we literally got nailed from left, right, center. So that's what we realized. It's not when you see demographically, we need to really address all the markets, not just the urban landscape, especially with a market like Bangalore. You might not really get the original image, right? They're really kind to us, but I don't think that's the market we need to go test in the first place. That way, user is the backbone. That's how we keep evolving our features, right? Even to make the existing mental model happen, we really need to do a lot of work behind to make the simple experience happen, right? It's easier to make the complicated experience. The simpler experience, the engineering part of the simpler experience is the hardest part.
In our initial days, when we had first few prototypes and we were testing UIs, we would make them on what was that tool? Something like InVision. It's on our iPad, and we'd go to a lot of oh yeah, principal, yes, and we would go to a lot of people on street and we asked them, give them contact and have a chat with them. And I think around Bangalore, we have done so many of those conversations back in 2017, and it used to be so much fun. Like, whole day we're outside talking to random people. They were also confused ki why they're talking about Activa or any other scooter to us. What are them?
Scooter like is coming from behind. Till then, just test this.
Yeah, I was thinking to ask why do you have so many Starbucks bills? What was
Oh,
happening? Like we're literally sitting there and like, trying to get the user research done there. Like so, then we had to cut on a budget and go to CCD and then like probably on the streets. And then after that we started calling people home. Like so,
we're
that was
done. Oh, yeah.
लिफ्ट में ही पकड़ लिया किसी अंकल को या आंटी को cool I don't know yaar I want to just keep talking about this but just to conclude this episode and give this a little structure I'll have two more questions that Ather feels like a startup and like not really a traditional automobile company, right? So how does give us a backstory of what happens, right? Like what's the working, how do you define impact?
So Ather is like if I have to give it a like a statement, it's a place where great products are built. Now it takes a lot of effort to make these products, and that's why we have. You can even think of it as like a group of small multiple startups, like where from software engineering, right? It, it's all put together to make one or more great products. So. Uh, it's definitely not a traditional automotive company. I would probably not have joined if that was the case. It's a group of people who were quite enthused about making something that doesn't, something that's amazing, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I got uh, part in that. Yeah. Harish, you want to add to that?
yeah. I think as I said, right, like it was more than the product. The building of the company itself was quite exciting for me. How Tarun and Swapnil has beautifully put together like a bunch of, as you said, like a bunch of startups inside a startup, right? Like so that worked very well. The initial set of people actually came and define how the team structures can be, right? And uh, I'm if you look at it, like even today, we still operate as a startup. It's like 3,000 folks sitting together, but it's still a startup, right? In a way. So so that way, we have a lot of new ideas which keep coming up. A lot of people keep pitching, why don't we do this way? Why don't we do this way? That kind of energy is still there, right? And always have this whole wild optimism and built for us attitude, right? If it's not really appealing to us, then I don't think it's going to be appealing for the target customers also, right? That we really strongly believe. So those are few strong principles we really follow to make things happen. And of course, wild optimism. No, like suppliers are going to say no to a bunch of things. The financially, economically, it's not going to work out. But still, like we do get there with the same startup attitude what we really have.
And in terms of
Yeah.
impact, I think it has been on all fronts, not just from the perception of people and customers. It has the impact has been on the whole sourcing, the supply chain side, because the things that were not considered as automotive, now suppliers are pushing for those kind of components that we think are required, or we ask them to get on board. So that's a great push to how different components are being created by third-party companies, and of course the uh, market impact you can see now, like the multiple companies. There's a whole revolution of EV, the government policies, you have subsidies, right? So all of that requires a lot of push from people who actually dare to create something great, or else nobody's going to look at that if it's an average product.
Well put together. Like even when you see from the homologation perspective, like we have regulations which the after the vehicle is built, we need to go it homologated, like so that we can basically approved by all the agencies, so that like we can actually put it on the onto the road, right? There also we deviations like having telltales like your indicators, right? Like your left indicator, right indicator, high beam indicator, and all. Like so, it was supposed to be different bulbs, which is supposed to be doing all the job. But the first time we integrated into the display, and somehow I don't know do it. Like the homologation team went and figured it out with no backing. Literally, that was the first time Ather was building the first product. We have zero backing on how we're going to do it, right? Somehow they figured it out, and like I think it's the people who are still moving it. I think it's even today it's the people who are moving a bunch of these stuff, right? That way, uh, uh, the process was following the people. It's not the people who are following the process, right? So we are also not the traditional automotive company where like we create everything is a waterfall model. You have a brief and then you create something. We have multiple gates, development gates, and then you launch a product. The hardware side also actually goes through an agile methodology, right? So it's completely new when it comes to the hardware startup perspective.
No, it so resonates at so many levels because me and my friend often discussed why Apple is a great one of the great products is because every or rather great brands because every peripheral, like be it mouse or be it that magic touchpad or whatever, it's almost, it would be, I don't know, I'm guessing it would be working like a small startup within that ecosystem, that I'll make the best case, I'll make the best wire, although they don't have it, but yeah, I'll make the best wires, right? So I can sense the rigor there. Cool. I'll conclude with one last question, and those who are listening till the end, I'm sorry, I would have asked more questions, but given the time, what advice would you give young Indian designers working at the intersection of hardware, software, and obviously EVs? Anurag, you want to go first? Yeah.
I think since I've left Ather, it's been quite, I think, almost 2 years now, and I've spoken to a lot of students outside. I've gone to a couple of design colleges as well, and the only advice that I give it to them is uh, first, be very, very confident on your craft. There's no to that, and at the same time, be receptive to learn new things. And work in such kind of companies like Ather, you don't need to have degrees in different departments to be expert at that. All you need to be good at is how do you figure out things and willingness to learn, right? I think that goes well beyond trends or your skill set, because trends and technologies will keep coming in. If you have that skill to learn new things and adapt to them faster, you will always be relevant. So you not to worry about if I'm going to be outdated in few years, and that's how you mingle with different people with different energies, and that's how you'll end up in an environment where you'll create amazing things. So yeah, in nutshell, it's first be very precise about your craft, and second is to be open to learning new things.
Harish?
I think he stole my point. Being curious is probably, and we even have it as a tagline, right? At like
Yeah,
one of our brand taglines, like and it was an internal brand tagline, like for the curious minds. I think that's what probably built Ather, right? Like, and that's the kind of people we are also really love to be with, right? I think the whole EV market is just expanding. The whole hardware tech product itself is expanding. It's quite new to India also. Like we have seen a lot of software stuff happening. But when it comes to hardware, a lot of things are being taught from scratch, right? How I learned, I came here, I had zero clue about how things are going to work, but like I'm just curious like anybody else, like how Anurag also came in, right? Uh, I I went with the flow, but I was just curious on learning new things, right? That is the single most important thing for me. Your craft and other stuff, your skill sets will follow. Skill sets can be built over time, but you being curious, you being excited about what you're trying to build is the most important thing, and that's the attitude we really probably will differentiate a designer from like probably a mediocre one.
This episode is not sponsored by Ather, but still, any last plug? Are you hiring? Are you looking for more designers, engineers?
There are a lot of openings which keeps coming up. Like your career page will be able to tell a lot of things which is open at this point of time. Yeah, but we do take a lot of interns. We do actually like extended interns also in case if people want to just try out stuff. Full-time employees, everything we do keep taking on timely basis. But yeah, keep a check on the career page or just shoot a mail to me.
I'm going to apply. I'm going to apply as intern today.
I mean, I know there are a lot of things I would miss once I leave. But one of the most the intense thing that I miss about Ather is not the product or not the it's the people, and it's the people who I worked with or people I like I interacted with. There's a whole energy over there that's all about building and building together. I think that's something I really look forward to finding it again somewhere, and that's why I think if you get chance, you should definitely be part of Ather, or at least sometime you should experience that kind of energy, that kind of team. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. All power to Harish and Ather. Congratulations once again on the IPO. And thank you both of you again for giving your time. It was great having you, fun talking. And I would definitely recommend we should do more
Do that.
episodes documenting the tail
Yes.
light, the seat, the tires, the braking system, the shock absorbers, and absorbers or whatever you call it. But thanks a lot for giving your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you, Kedar. It was fun. It was really fun for the first documentation exercise we ever did.
It's an honor. Thanks. See you.
All right.
In this episode, we went deep into Ather's dashboard, how it was imagined, built, and many design decisions that makes it such a unique rider experience. What stood out to you the most? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do subscribe to thegyanproject.com to stay updated with our latest episodes, and follow us on social media for quick bites and takeaways from every conversation. All links are in the show notes. See you in the next one.